just because it's in the interest of the central banks and the government, the interests and the models of Keynesian economics and the government are aligned doesn't mean they're wrong. So let's give them a chance. So the conventional wisdom, perhaps economics wisdom, is that inflation is good in moderation, as it encourages spending, but too much is bad because it completely devalues, destroys people's savings. So a little bit of inflation is good to stimulate spending. And I mean, I suppose this is one of the things that's supported by Keynesian economics. Why
this is basically wrong? The whole point of Keynesian economics is to try and find an endless array of explanations to explain why inflation is a good thing.
Well, the chicken and the egg. So that's the cynical take.
Yeah,
this is a propaganda machine to sell the government's narrative. The less cynical take is there's a bunch of economists who
figured out this thing, and it happens to be good for banks and governments. And just because it's good for them doesn't mean...
And it justifies the existence of government. And your basic, I don't think it's your basic assumption, but a foundational principle of your thought is that a lot of government is not a good thing. Your first gut instinct, government bad. Like I mentioned, I lived next door to Michael Malice, who probably beats you on the intensity and how quickly he says government bad. So but there's a potential argument for government good. Some government is good. Maybe a lot of government is good. Maybe we need a lot of centralized management for resource allocation and so on, because we humans specialize. We're too busy and so on. So there's an argument for that. That exists. You probably disagree with any possible argument on that side. But anyway, so why is that idea of Keynesian economics wrong?
I'm going to focus for this on the money idea, the idea that a little bit of inflation is good. The idea here, I mean, the criticism is that without inflation, people wouldn't spend, and then the economy would come to a grinding halt.
Yes.
And that's nonsensical, because people spend not because they want to keep this magical monster called the economy going. People spend because they need to consume, because, that's how we live. That's how we survive. You need to eat, you need shelter, you need clothes to keep you warm. And as technology advances, the capabilities of the things that we can do with our time increases, and so we want to buy more things. So people buy things because people want to consume. There's a limitless desire to consume. That there's no there's no shortage of reasons for people to consume, whether it's food or Ferraris or private jets. People just always want to buy more.
Can I interrupt just really quick? What about the fear about the uncertainty of the future, where they might want to buy things, but they're really afraid because it seems like there's a lot, like a pandemic going on or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's good.
So fear of uncertainty is, but can you have too much fear of uncertainty?
No, here's the thing. What I was saying is, I was making the point that we don't need to be motivated to consume. Like, we have the insatiable desire to consume. Everybody would like to have more of all kinds of things. Everybody would like to have a bigger house. Well, not everybody. Some people have a big enough house, but everybody would like a house. Everybody would like a car, jet, all kinds of things, electronics, machines. So we don't need a desire to consume. But of course, the limit on how much we consume is opportunity cost. Why don't you buy a Ferrari? Well, because that's really expensive, and it would mean that, well, maybe you do have a Ferrari, but I mean, most people don't buy a Ferrari because it's too expensive. They can't afford it. They'd have to work too hard to get it. And if they do get it, it might mean that, they can't afford their house anymore. So we have to economize. That's a good thing. And we have to also think of the future. And so humans consume, that we don't need more motivation to consume. We have to deal with the economic reality of the things that limit us from consuming more. So what Keynesians present is that when there is a problem in the economy, like there was after World War I, the problem is always a result caused by the inflation. And what the Keynesian hucksters do is that they look at the inflation, at the consequences of inflation, and blame it on people not spending enough. When people are doing the rational thing, the money is So there was inflation, it caused an unsustainable boom, it caused a recession, and now a lot of people lost their jobs and they don't have enough money to go out and spend frivolously. So they save for the future. The future is uncertain. That's a good thing. That's how you fix things. You begin the recovery by, you lost some wealth, so you spend less. Like if your business goes bust, if you lose your job, it's natural and smart that you stop spending money on the frivolous things that you used to spend, and you save it for the future. You invest in something else, you get a new job, and then once you've recovered, you start spending more. This is very sane and very good, and it's the way to recovery. But essentially, the Keynesians have used this as a justification for more inflation, because inflation is an addiction. Once the government gets down the path of spending money to solve its problems, then every problem looks like it can be solved by more inflation. And so this is where Keynesian economics comes in. And of course, the Keynesian economics is based on the work of Keynes, which came in the 1930s. And this is the key point. It's portrayed in the textbook as if it's just this scientific breakthrough that, somebody in the 1930s, this genius came about and realized that, oh, we don't actually need gold. We don't need hard money. We can actually just print all the money. And in reality, of course, it was just the very thin, flimsy, idiotic justification for what governments were already doing for 20 years. They'd already gone off the gold standard. And they'd gone through 20 years in which they were lying to their population, telling their population we're still on a gold standard, but, there are problems caused by various random things. But don't worry, we're going to be going back on the gold standard. 20 years later, after they went off the gold standard, they come up with this justification for why, actually, the gold standard was bad. And this is the really pernicious thing about it, is the problems that were caused by us going off the gold standard were caused by the gold standard, and we're going to fix them by going off the gold standard even more.
Just because government is lying and it's shady and it does these kinds of things doesn't mean Keynesian economics is wrong. So just because I want to just separate a few things you said, it could very well be very wrong, and they could indeed be hucksters. All of these such colorful language. I love you deeply for this. This is fun.